We're at Black and White Bikes, where today Paul is going to be showing us how to check, clean and when necessary change air filters and spark plugs. Talk us through this process. Where do we get cracking?
Right, well, we've got a partially stripped bike anyway here, which is a bit of a bonus, but the one bit that we haven't done is take the petrol tank off, which gives us access to the airbox and then onwards to the spark plugs. Most bikes are pretty much the same with that. You know, you've got to go that route. Sometimes with a V engine, you might be looking at different ways, and you might have to remove a radiator or something like that. But hopefully this way, we just go straight in.
Fantastic. Okay, so let's get stuck in.
To start, we've got to lift the petrol tank up, disconnect all the connections, fuel connections and electrical connections to give us access to the airbox. We can get into the air filter then, and then further from there we can delve in and get to the spark plugs to check and clean the spark plugs. Most petrol tanks, there's a front connection. We've got some bolts just here which we've removed, and we can lift this up on a hinge at the back, which then gives us access to the connections down below. This little switch here, connector, there, right. We've got a snazzy pair of pliers here for just removing the fuel connector there. Right, so now we're okay to take the petrol tank off. Okay, and obviously put it somewhere safe. So we've got all these crosshead screws. We've got crosshead screws all the way around, and we've got connectors, electrical and fuel line connectors, but we should be able to leave those in place and just remove these. What I find useful, little margarine tub.
Could you also use a button, or does it have to be margarine?
Margarine is better, absolutely.
It's healthier, isn't it?
It is, yeah. We don't want high cholesterol in your workshop.
If you don't want it, why should your bolts have to have it?
And there we have the airbox, moving trumpets on this bike, obviously, and an air filter. Is the air is being drawn in the front of the bike, coming up into this area here, which you can see is dirty, and then it can only go through this filter, and so this side should be perfectly clean. So the first thing to do is to inspect your clean side and make sure it is clean. You know, if there's dirt and stuff around there, then you've got a problem. Your filter's not doing its job. Or if you've got a break in the seal here, you could be getting dirt this side, and you definitely don't want that. Right, I think next thing to do is strip this down and get the airbox off. Now, with the airbox open, we've got access to the air filter, so it doesn't need any cleaning. It's immaculate, as you can see. If it were to be looking not that lovely pink colour, then what we'd be looking to do is immerse it in a solvent, clean it out, let it dry, wash it out with water after you've cleaned it out with the solvent, wash it out with water, let it dry thoroughly. It helps to be doing this in the summer or next to a fire. Give it a good time to dry out, and then spray it with a K&N oil. So we can remove the air filter, gives us a bit more room to get into the process of removing the airbox. We've actually got movable bell mounts by pulling these off here, and then that gives us access to the bolts. So loosen all these off. There's just 4 of them on this bike. Different bikes will have a different quantity quite often. We've got a crankcase breather pipe here going onto the back of the airbox, so we're just going to get some pliers on that. So they're the 2 last bolts holding the trumpets in place. There and there. This is what's called the pair valve, which sends air down into the exhaust port. Right, got that off. So now we've just got the tightness of the front air ducts coming into the airbox, and we've got one more electrical connection just to the back here. The connector that operates the stepper motor for the throttle butterflies. And then that's our airbox. What I would do now is seal off the throttle bodies. We've got a fair amount of dirt here, and these are areas that we want to keep completely clean. That's just a seal coming from the ram air, yeah. So what I'll probably do, that's looking a bit dusty, so I'll give that a clean down before it goes back in. So we'll take that out and wash it all off. And likewise, if I pull this one out, there. I think the plugs are fine actually, we'll probably just leave them in. There you go, just like that. As soon as you get a bit of lube, there you go, look. That'll obviously need cleaning as well. So we can finally get close to seeing our spark plugs. 1, 2, 3, 4. Next job is to remove the electrical connectors to the top of the coil sticks. 1, 2, 3, and right over in the corner. If it's tight, just slide it off with a screwdriver, like that. What I'm going to do now, just at this point, is I'm going to just blow the area out with some compressed air. It's a bit dusty. The coil sticks are sealed, so nothing gets in underneath them, and I don't want to start knocking dust into the area. So unfortunately we're going to make some noise and a compressor going on. We've got easy access to these 4 stick coils, and just by hand to start with, we won't use any tools, just see if it wants to come out. It's a really tight seal around the hole, so you're pulling against that, you'll hear it kind of pop as it comes out. You can be very gentle and just lever it, getting as close to that. You don't want to lever at the end because you'll snap it, and there it goes. So that's just the stick coil. There. We don't want to lever on the end like that. We're leavering right close to there. If you snap that off, that's an expensive product. Not that. Don't do that. Get it right in there, and there we go. Success. But be really careful, like I say. You don't want to snap these. So now we should have access to 4 spark plugs. So I'm just using a regular long deep socket. Looks like I need a bit of an extension on it and an elbow typically, and just, you can't see anything, so you just feel that it's dropped onto the top of the spark plug. Right, that's loose. A little bit of hose. And as you can see, that has been in there a long time. It's probably doing a fantastic job, it's just getting a bit old. That's where the spark happens, between the centrepiece and these side pieces. Yeah. As the spark happens, it erodes the metal. Over time, therefore, the erosion of that metal, that gap gets bigger, and it becomes harder work for the spark to bridge. So that's why we changed. That's how a spark plug wears out, is the erosion of the metal because of the spark.
How could you check its wear?
Well, this is a weird one. There will be a limit for that with a feeler gauge. The service book says this gap should be between 0.6 and 0.7 of a millimetre, which is a fairly standard size. So feeler gauge, there's a 0.6, which is quite loose in there. There's a 0.7, which is tight. Won't go in, so we're 0.65, we're bang in the middle. So that actually, gap-wise, is fine. It would have carried on for a few more years probably, but it's nice to change them. So let's whiz the rest of these out.
Basic servicing costs and realising how we're going to strip it.
So with your practice there, so obviously you're using a rubber hose to sit over the top of the electrode.
That's actually, that's actually just a piece of hose which I use mainly to install spark plugs. So I was going to talk about that when we were going to put them back in, but I'm actually using it to hoik them out as well. Okay. It's actually, if you feel it, it's actually soft at one end.
Do you ever get one spark plug looking different to the others?
Can be. You've got an air leak on an inlet, something like that. So it's nice to match them to check that, you know, they all look identical, and then you know that, you know, your engine's working all right. So they're the 4 plugs that have come out. We're going to replace them with these. And the only other thing about spark plugs is if you think 20 or 25 quid a plug is expensive, and so you go on eBay and you find them for 12 quid a plug, buy them up, they're nice and cheap. What could possibly go wrong? Well, they're fake, that's why. There are so many fake NGK spark plugs out there. We're going to pop those in, compress up to there. We're not going to put any kind of grease or sealant or anything like that on that. It goes in. To put the spark plug in to start with, what we're going to do is use this little bit of pipe, put that down and hold it on there. So we've got flexibility. What we can do is, because it's blind and we can't see where we're going into, it's very difficult to see the hole. So this will allow to take up some flexibility. If it were to cross thread, which is a really horrible thing for a spark plug to do because it means all kinds of work, then it will cross thread. As soon as it cross threads, this will spin on the spark plug and not cause damage. So you can then take it out and try again. If you went straight in with a socket and started going and having a chat, oh, hang on a minute, I've cross-threaded it, you've ruined a head. But before you pop them in, just check them, just in case they've been dropped in the box or something like that. So they're between 0.6 and 0.7, so that's a bang on. They're always right. Another reason why they're not fake. Into this hole. Right, it's sitting on its thread, so we start to turn and do a few turns and pull, and yeah, it's in the hole and it's threading. So we just do it all the way up, as hard as that hose will allow it to go, which is there, and then you can just pull the hose off. So do that 4 times. Last one. Got the torque setting, pop that down in the hole. These will be quite loose because they were done up finger tight, so no, you heard that click, so that's that set. Yep, right, all done. Next thing to do is put those stick coils back in. Just give them a little wipe down. Why not? And that should make it easier to get them out the next time. There we go. It's all good. Last one in. The tricky one. And then connect the stick coil electrically. Clicks on. Right, job done.
So that's it, we're all done. Paul's done a cracking job of showing us all we need to know about air filters and spark plugs. Check out the new issue of the magazine for loads more tips and advice on this particular topic and loads of other workshop material.